My cousin thought he owned the family legacy, so I destroyed his moment in front of everyone. My family business started with Grandpa's wrench and pure stubbornness. Now it's this massive local empire, auto shops, property, commercial fleet. But everyone assumed my cousin Eric would inherit it because he wore button-down shirts with monogrammed cufflinks. Meanwhile, I was the grease-stained, stay-out-of-family photos cousin who actually worked there every summer, learned the books, showed up before sunrise. Eric visited once a month in polo shirts, and everyone treated him like royalty. When Grandpa died, Eric immediately started calling himself next-gen CEO before the will was even read. He invited investors to Grandpa's house and posted Instagram photos of the office with big shoes to fill. Legacy continues. The audacity was breathtaking. So I went digging through Grandpa's files and found a USB drive. On it was a video of Grandpa filmed a month before he died, sitting at his desk talking about the real heir, me. Legacy isn't about the nicest shirt, it's about sweat. Only one person in this family earned it. I could have leaked it immediately, but I waited for maximum impact. At Grandpa's memorial dinner, Eric stood up with a champagne toast and dramatic speech about honor and tradition. Then he unveiled a plaque renaming the business Harris and Eric Family Auto. That's when I stood up. I think Grandpa would have hated that name. Eric rolled his eyes. You wouldn't know what Grandpa wanted. I walked to the TV with the flash drive. Let's let him speak for himself. Grandpa appeared on screen looking directly into the camera, explaining exactly who he trusted with his legacy, and why Eric's fake smile and designer shirts didn't impress him. Dead silence. Even Eric's mom said, "Play it again." Eric turned 17 shades of red, then bolted from the room like his polo shirt was on fire. The next morning, I opened the shop early and hung up a new sign. Earned, not given. Eric tried damage control on social media, posting about family betrayal and taking legal action. Unfortunately for both of us, Grandpa's lawyer called 3 days later saying there was a final condition of the inheritance we'd both missed in the fine print. Apparently, Grandpa had set up a performance clause requiring the heir to hit specific revenue targets within the first 90 days, or ownership would transfer to a third party. I'd been so focused on fighting Eric that I hadn't been managing the actual business properly, and we were tracking 15% below target. Eric somehow knew about this clause. That's why he'd been causing chaos. He was deliberately trying to tank my numbers. The lawyer said the third party Grandpa named wasn't family at all, but some corporation I'd never heard of, and if I failed, they'd buy everything at a fraction of its value. I had 31 days left to hit an impossible target while dealing with Eric's mess. Then I found out who really owned that corporation, and why Grandpa had chosen them as his backup plan. The corporation was called Westfield Holdings, LLC. Sounded generic enough. I spent 2 hours searching business registries and property records before I found the filing documents. The registered agent was a law firm downtown, but the actual owner listed on the LLC paperwork made my stomach drop. Patricia Ann Harris, Eric's mother, my aunt. I sat in my truck in the shop parking lot staring at the document on my phone. The filing date was from 4 years ago, right around the time Grandpa started having his first health problems. I scrolled through the business partners listed under Westfield Holdings and found the second name that made everything click into place. Ronald Kemper, owner of Kemper Automotive Group, our biggest competitor in the region. My aunt had partnered with our direct business rival, and Grandpa had named her shell corporation as the backup heir if I failed. I called the lawyer back. Did Grandpa know who owned Westfield Holdings when he put them in the will? There was a pause. I can't speak to your grandfather's knowledge of corporate structures. I only followed his instructions as written. But you knew. You had to verify the company existed. I verified the legal entity. Yes. So you knew my aunt was the backup plan. Another pause. Your grandfather's exact words to me were that Westfield Holdings represented the family member who understood business over sentiment. He said if you couldn't meet the performance standards, perhaps someone with a more practical approach should take over. I hung up and called Benny, our IT guy who'd worked for Grandpa for 15 years. I need you to pull every financial transaction from the past 3 years. Everything. Payroll, vendor payments, petty cash, all of it. That's gonna take a while. What am I looking for? Anything that doesn't add up. Any pattern that seems off. I got the files 2 days later. Benny had organized everything into spreadsheets with color coding for different transaction types. I spent an entire night going through them with a cup of coffee that went cold 3 times. The discrepancies started showing up around month 6. Small amounts at first. 300 here, 500 there. Always categorized as vendor payments or equipment repairs. But when I cross-referenced the vendor names with our actual supplier list, half of them didn't exist. The other half were legitimate companies, but the amounts didn't match our actual invoices. I pulled our real invoices from the filing cabinets. We'd paid Mitchell Industrial Supply $4,000 according to the books. The actual invoice was for $2,800. Someone had pocketed $1,200 and created a fake receipt. This pattern repeated across hundreds of transactions. By the time I finished calculating, I was looking at roughly $340,000 in missing funds over a 2-year period. I took photos of everything and called Marcus Reeves, a forensic accountant I'd met at a business networking thing Grandpa dragged me to years ago. He came to the shop that same afternoon. Marcus spread the documents across the conference table and put on reading glasses. He didn't say anything for 20 minutes, just moved papers around and made notes on a legal pad. Finally, he looked up. "Who has signature authority on your business accounts?" "Me now." Before Grandpa died, it was him and my Aunt Patricia. She's the CFO. She's not anymore, correct? Technically, she still is until I officially restructure. Marcus tapped his pen on the table. "These transactions required 2-factor authorization. Your grandfather's signature and hers. Either he was in on it, which I doubt, or someone forged his approval. Can you prove that?" "I can try, but you need to freeze her access to everything immediately. If she realizes you're looking into this, evidence will disappear." I changed all the passwords that night. Bank accounts, vendor portals, payroll systems, everything. Then I waited. The call came at 6 in the morning. Aunt Patricia's voice was sharp. "Why am I locked out of the accounting software?" "Security update. Everyone got new credentials." "I'm the CFO. I should have been notified." "You're being notified now. I'll email you the new login." "This is unacceptable. I have reports due." "Then you'll have them done by Monday." She hung up without another word. I didn't send her the new login. Instead, I spent the weekend with Marcus building a timeline of every fraudulent transaction. We matched dates with Grandpa's calendar and found that 60% of the suspicious payments happened when he was out of town at industry conferences or visiting his sister in Florida. "She waited until he was gone," Marcus said. "Smart. Harder to verify in real time." "How was she getting his signature?" Marcus pulled out one of the bank transfer authorizations. "See this? It's a digital signature. She could have saved his credentials and used them whenever she needed. That's illegal. Very. And if we can prove she did it knowingly, that's embezzlement and fraud." Monday morning, I got an email from Eric. Subject line: "We need to talk." I deleted it. He showed up at the shop Tuesday. I was under a Chevy Silverado replacing a transmission mount when I heard his voice talking to Benny at the front desk. "I need to see him." "It's about the business." "He's with a customer." "I'll wait." I took my time finishing the job. 45 minutes later, I walked out to the lobby, wiping my hands on a rag. Eric stood by the coffee machine wearing slacks and a sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Make it quick," I said. "Not here. Your office." We walked back through the shop. Employees watched but didn't say anything. I closed the office door behind us. Eric sat in the chair across from my desk without being invited. "You're making a mistake." "Which one?" "I've made several lately. Freezing Mom out. She's trying to help herself to company money, yeah." His face didn't change. Not even a flicker. That's when I knew for sure he was involved. "You don't understand the full picture," Eric said. "Then explain it." Grandpa was losing it his last year, making bad decisions. Someone had to keep things stable. By stealing $300,000? By making strategic reallocations that Grandpa was too stubborn to approve. This business needed modernization. He refused every proposal. I sat down and leaned back in my chair. "So you and your mom decided to help yourselves. We protected the legacy, which is more than you've done. You're 15% below target with 4 weeks left. You're going to lose everything because you're too proud to accept help." "Help from the people actively sabotaging me?" Eric smiled. "No one's sabotaging anything. You're failing on your own. Get out. You'll come around. When Westfield Holdings takes over, we'll offer you a management position. Decent salary, benefits. You can keep working with cars like you love. But the business decisions will be left to people who actually understand them." I said, "Get out." He stood slowly. 4 weeks. Then this conversation happens again, except you won't have a choice. After he left, I sat there for 10 minutes, just breathing. Then I called Marcus. "I need everything documented and ready to present. Soon as possible." "You're going to confront her?" "I'm going to bury her." Marcus had the full report ready in 3 days. 67 pages of evidence with transaction records, forged authorizations, and a paper trail showing regular communication between Aunt Patricia and Ronald Kemper of Kemper Automotive Group. They'd been planning this for years. I scheduled a family meeting at the main office for Saturday morning, sent emails to everyone. Mom, Dad, Uncle Richard, who was Patricia's husband, my 2 other cousins, and a few other relatives who had minor stakes in the business. Patricia replied within 5 minutes. "What is this regarding?" I didn't respond. Saturday came. Everyone showed up looking confused. I'd arranged chairs in the conference room and set up my laptop to connect to the projector. Marcus sat in the back corner with his briefcase. Uncle Richard arrived with Patricia. He looked tired. She looked annoyed. "Can we make this quick?" Patricia said. "I have plans this afternoon." "Won't take long," I said. Once everyone was seated, I stood at the front of the room. "Thanks for coming. I know this is last minute, but I found something I think everyone needs to see." I opened the first slide. It showed the Westfield Holdings LLC registration documents with Patricia's name highlighted. Some of you might not know this, but Grandpa's will has a performance clause. If I don't hit specific revenue targets in 90 days, ownership of the business transfers to a third party. That third party is this company, Westfield Holdings, owned by Patricia. Uncle Richard looked at his wife. "What's he talking about?" Patricia's jaw tightened. "This is inappropriate. Business matters should be discussed privately. This involves everyone here," I said, "because it involves family money." I clicked to the next slide. Transaction records showing the discrepancies. Over the past 2 years, someone has been moving money out of company accounts, small amounts that look like normal business expenses, except the vendors don't exist, or the amounts are inflated. Total missing funds are $340,000. My mom gasped. Dad leaned forward. "That's a serious accusation," Patricia said. Her voice stayed calm, but her hands gripped the armrests. "Do you have proof?" "Yeah, all of it." I spent the next 20 minutes walking through the evidence. Marcus had organized it perfectly. Every transaction with dates, amounts, and corresponding forged authorizations. I showed emails between Patricia and Ronald Kemper discussing market positioning and acquisition strategies. One email from Patricia to Ronald, dated 8 months ago. "When the time comes, we move fast. The business is worth $4.2 million, but we can acquire for under $2 million if the heir fails performance requirements. Harris Auto's client list alone justifies the investment." Uncle Richard stood up. "Patricia, what is this?" She didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on me. "You're making wild accusations based on documents that could easily be fabricated. These came from our own servers, backed up and verified by a forensic accountant." I gestured to Marcus. Marcus stood. "Everything here is documented with timestamps and digital signatures. I can testify to the authenticity in court if needed." Patricia finally looked at her husband. "Richard, we're leaving." "No." His voice came out quiet. "I want to hear this. It's a setup. He's desperate because he's failing and needs someone to blame." "Then explain the emails," I said. I clicked to another slide. A text conversation between Patricia and Eric from 3 weeks ago. "Patricia, keep pushing. He's at 82% of target. Another few delayed shipments and canceled contracts should do it." Eric, "What if he figures it out?" Patricia, "He won't. He's too busy trying to prove himself. Just keep applying pressure." The room went completely silent. Uncle Richard sat down heavily. "Eric knew? Eric's been helping her the whole time," I said. "The chaos after Grandpa died wasn't random. It was planned." I showed more texts, instructions from Patricia to Eric about which clients to approach with concerns about business stability, which employees to whisper doubts to, how to create the appearance of mismanagement without leaving fingerprints. My mom was crying. Dad had his arm around her. Patricia stood up. "If you make these accusations public, I will sue you for defamation. I will take everything you have. Go ahead, because I'm also filing criminal charges for embezzlement and fraud." Her face went white. "You can threaten lawsuits all you want, but Marcus has already submitted his findings to the district attorney's office. They're reviewing it now." Uncle Richard looked at his wife like he'd never seen her before. "How could you do this? To family? Family?" Patricia's voice cracked. "You want to talk about family? Your father always favored them." She pointed at my mom. "His golden daughter and her perfect son who was so good with cars. Meanwhile, my kids were never good enough. Eric tried so hard to impress him and got nothing. So yes, I made sure we'd get what we deserved. By stealing it," Uncle Richard said. "By being smart enough to take it." Uncle Richard stood and walked out. Just left. Didn't say another word. Patricia watched him go. For the first time, she looked uncertain. "Mom?" Eric's voice came from the doorway. I turned. He was standing there. "Must have come in during the presentation." "Eric, we're leaving," Patricia said. "You said this was just business strategy. You said we were protecting the legacy. We are. You've been stealing from Grandpa, from the family. I've been securing our future. Something you'd understand if you weren't so weak." Eric flinched like she'd slapped him. I pulled out my phone. I also have recordings. Patricia's eyes went wide. "What? You called me 4 times over the past 2 weeks. I recorded all of them. I played the first one." Patricia's voice came through the phone speaker talking about how the business needed professional management, not some grease monkey playing CEO. How she'd built relationships with real industry leaders who could take things to the next level. Then the second recording, her admitting that certain vendor relationships had been adjusted to improve efficiency. When I'd pushed her on what that meant, she'd said that smart people understand business requires creative accounting sometimes. The third recording was the smoking gun. I'd called her pretending to be panicking about the revenue targets. Asked if there was any way to renegotiate the performance clause. She'd laughed and said it was too late, that Grandpa had made sure there were no loopholes. Then she'd said, "Besides, Westfield is ready to take over. We've already got the paperwork prepared. Once you fail, the transition will be seamless." When I'd asked what she meant by we, there was silence. Then she'd said, "I mean the new ownership group." But I'd kept pushing. "Who's in the ownership group?" Another pause. "People who understand what this business could become. Ronald Kemper has vision. Together we'll expand in ways your grandfather never imagined." "So you and Kemper planned this?" "We planned for all possibilities, including your failure." The recording ended. Patricia's face had gone from white to red. "You recorded private conversations. Single-party consent state. Perfectly legal." She grabbed her purse. "I'm calling my lawyer." "Good. Tell him to meet you at the police station." She stopped at the door. "You think you've won something here? You're still 12% below target with less than a month left. Even without my help, you're going to fail. And when you do, everything Grandpa built will belong to people who actually deserve it." Then she left. Eric stood there for another minute. He looked at me, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. Then he just shook his head and walked out. The room stayed quiet for a long time after they were gone. Finally, my dad spoke. "What do you need?" "A miracle. I've got 24 days to hit an impossible number. Then we better get to work." But things got worse before they got better. Monday morning, I came in to find 3 messages from business partners. 2 were requesting immediate meetings to discuss the stability of our company. The third was from our biggest client, Holloway Construction, saying they needed to talk about their fleet maintenance contract. I called Holloway first. Got transferred to the owner, Greg Holloway. "I'm hearing things," he said. "Legal problems, family disputes, money issues. We had some internal irregularities that are being addressed." Irregularities. That's a word. "Listen, I like you. Your grandpa was solid. But I've got 40 trucks that need maintenance and I can't have them sitting idle if your shop goes under." "We're not going under." "Maybe not, but I've got a business to run. Kemper's been calling me, offering a good rate and guaranteed turnaround times. I'm thinking of making a switch." My stomach dropped. "That's an $80,000 annual contract. I know what it's worth. That's why I'm giving you heads up instead of just moving it. You've got until Friday to give me a reason to stay." He hung up. I sat there doing math. Losing the Holloway contract would drop me to 18% below target. Impossible to recover from. Benny knocked on the door. "We've got a problem." Added to the list. 3 guys just quit. Ramirez, Thompson, and Kevin. I looked up. "What? When?" "This morning. They came in together and gave notice. Said they got offers elsewhere." "From where?" "They wouldn't say." I called Ramirez. He didn't answer. Left a message. Called Thompson. Same thing. Kevin answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, I can't really talk right now. Where are you going?" Silence on the line. "Kevin, we've worked together for 3 years. Talk to me. I got an offer. Better pay, better benefits. I've got a kid on the way, man. I can't take risks right now." "Who made the offer?" "I signed an NDA. I can't say." "Was it Kemper?" More silence. "Kevin, look, I'm sorry. It's just business." He hung up. I walked out to the shop floor. We had 6 jobs in progress and just lost 3 of my best guys. The remaining mechanics looked nervous. "Everyone here," I called out. They gathered around. 8 guys total, plus Benny. "I know you've heard things. About the family stuff. About money problems. I'm going to be straight with you. We're going through some difficulties. Legal issues with a family member. But this shop is solid. Has been for 40 years. Will be for 40 more. What about the guys who quit?" Someone asked. "They got poached. Probably by Kemper. He's trying to hurt us by taking our people. Is it working?" I looked at the speaker. "Young guy, maybe 25. Good with electrical systems. Only if you let it. I'm asking you to stick with me. Ride this out. When we come through on the other side, everyone here gets a raise. 5% across the board. We gonna make it to the other side?" Someone else asked. "Yeah, we are." They went back to work, but I could feel the doubt. That afternoon, my truck started making a knocking sound. Thought maybe I'd picked up some bad gas. Pulled into the bay and had Benny run diagnostics. "Your engine's seized," he said. "What?" "Someone put sugar in your gas tank. It's completely wrecked." I stood there looking at my truck, the one thing I owned outright. "Can we fix it?" "New engine. 15 grand minimum." I couldn't afford that, not with everything else happening. I called my insurance. They said vandalism was covered, but I had a $5,000 deductible and the claim would take 2 weeks to process. I didn't have 2 weeks or $5,000. That night I listed my truck on Facebook Marketplace for parts. Got $4,000 for it. Sold my dirt bike for $1,200. Sold a collection of vintage tools I'd inherited from my grandfather for $800. Scraped together just enough to cover immediate expenses. I started taking the bus to work. Wednesday morning, I got an email from an investment group I'd never heard of. They'd seen news about the family business situation and wanted to discuss a potential partnership, offering immediate capital injection in exchange for equity stake. I called the number listed, got a smooth-voiced guy named Trevor. "We've been watching your company for a while," he said. "Strong fundamentals, good market position. The family drama is unfortunate, but we see opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" "We'd invest $200,000 in operating capital, immediate cash, in exchange for 40% ownership. That's steep. It's fair, given current circumstances. You need money fast. We can provide it. Plus, we bring connections, expertise, growth potential." "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long. Offer expires Friday." I hung up and called Marcus. "Can you look into a company called Helix Investment Partners?" "Sure. What am I looking for?" "Anything that connects them to Patricia or Kemper." He called back 2 hours later. "Found it. Helix is a subsidiary of Kemper Holdings. It's Eric's company." "Eric has an investment company?" "Started it 6 months ago with money from his mother. They've been buying up small businesses in the area. Looks like a pattern of swooping in during distress situations, taking majority control, then flipping them to larger companies. So if I take their deal, you lose the business anyway, just slower." I deleted the email. Friday afternoon, Greg Holloway came by the shop himself. I walked him through our current operations, showed him our maintenance logs, explained the transition plan. "I appreciate the tour," he said, "but I've made my decision. I'm moving the contract to Kemper. Nothing personal. Give me 1 more week. Let me prove we can deliver. I already gave you extra time. I've got to do what's right for my business." He shook my hand and left. I lost the $80,000 contract. That brought me to 21% below target with 19 days left. I spent the weekend running numbers. Even if every single pending deal closed and I brought in maximum revenue on every job, I'd still be short. The math didn't work. Monday morning brought another problem. Our main hydraulic lift stopped working, the kind of breakdown that happens from age and hard use. Repair estimate came back at $18,000. I didn't have $18,000. Didn't have $1,800. I went to the bank for a loan, sat across from a loan officer named Sheila who looked through my application with a sympathetic expression. "I understand your situation," she said. "But with the pending legal issues and the uncertainty around ownership, we can't extend credit right now. Too much risk. I've been banking here for 10 years. I know, and personally I hope you figure this out, but bank policy is clear. I sold my motorcycle, got $3,200 for it. Sold my laptop, my television, anything worth money. Scraped together enough for a used lift from a shop that was closing down. It worked, but barely. 12 days left, 23% below target. Then, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this the owner of Harris Auto?" "Yeah. My name is Dennis Pryor. I worked with your grandfather back in the 90s. Just heard about your situation. How did you hear about it?" "Small business community talks. Your grandfather helped me once when I was starting out. Loaned me $50,000 interest-free when no bank would touch me. Saved my company." "I didn't know that. He didn't talk about it. That was his way. Listen, I want to return the favor. I can front you $100,000, interest-free, 6-month payback." I sat down. "Why would you do that?" "Because your grandfather believed in me when nobody else did. And because what's happening to you is wrong. I know the Kemper family. Bunch of vultures. I don't know what to say. Say yes and come sign papers." I met Dennis at his office that afternoon. He was in his 70s, gray hair and thick glasses. His company built custom furniture. "Your grandfather was a good man," Dennis said, sliding the loan agreement across his desk. "He told me once that the measure of a person isn't what they take, it's what they give. He gave me a future. I'm giving you a fighting chance." I signed the papers with shaking hands. With the capital injection, I was able to stabilize operations, paid outstanding vendor bills, gave the remaining employees bonuses to keep them from jumping ship, started aggressive outreach to potential new clients. But I was still 18% short with 9 days left. That's when the major commercial contract came through. Valley Transit Authority needed maintenance services for their bus fleet. 60 vehicles, comprehensive service agreement, annual value of $220,000. They'd been reviewing bids for 3 months. I'd submitted ours back before Grandpa died. The contract manager called me personally. "We've decided to go with Harris Auto. Your proposal showed the best combination of price and service quality. When do we start?" "Paperwork processes in 3 days. First payment within 7. Is that timeline acceptable?" I did quick math in my head. If the first payment came through before the deadline, it would put me at 103% of target. "That's perfect." I hung up and actually yelled. Benny came running. "We got it," I said. "Valley Transit. We got it. The shop erupted in cheers. That night I slept for the first time in weeks. But the next morning I woke up to an email from Valley Transit's legal department. Contract on hold, pending review of legal filing. My stomach dropped. I called the contract manager. What legal filing? We received an injunction this morning, filed by a Patricia Harris, claiming that your company used stolen proprietary client information to bid on this contract. That's insane. We've been bidding on municipal contracts for 20 years. I understand. But until the court resolves this, we can't move forward. Policy. When's the hearing? Scheduled for next week. Next week? My deadline is in 6 days. I'm sorry. Our hands are tied. I called Marcus. Patricia filed an injunction against the Valley Transit contract. On what grounds? Says we used stolen client information. Did you? No. They put out a public RFP. Anyone could bid. Then we fight it. I'll contact a litigation attorney. The hearing got scheduled for the day before my deadline. Judge Williams presiding. We showed up with our attorney, a sharp woman named Carol Diaz, who specialized in business disputes. Patricia had a whole legal team. Her attorney was a guy in a suit that probably cost more than my car used to be worth. He argued that Harris Auto had obtained confidential information about Valley Transit's service needs through improper channels, giving us an unfair advantage in the bidding process. What channels? Judge Williams asked. Communications between Mrs. Patricia Harris and Valley Transit operations staff that contained sensitive budget information. Carol stood. Your Honor, may I see these communications? They produced emails between Patricia and someone at Valley Transit discussing general industry trends and service expectations. Nothing specific to the bid. Carol handed them to me. I read through them twice. These are from 4 years ago, I said quietly. Carol addressed the judge. Your Honor, these communications predate the RFP by 3 years. They contain no specific information about the current contract. Furthermore, Mrs. Harris had no official capacity with Harris Auto at the time of the bid. She was CFO but had no involvement in the proposal development. Then how did the information transfer? Patricia's lawyer asked. It didn't, Carol said, because there was no confidential information. The RFP was public. Our bid was based on publicly available specifications and our company's service rates. Judge Williams looked over the evidence. I'm not seeing grounds for an injunction here. The communications in question are old and non-specific. Do you have anything else? Patricia's lawyer shuffled papers. We're prepared to depose the bid preparation team to establish the chain of information. That would take weeks, Carol said. Meanwhile, my client loses a legitimate contract because of baseless accusations. The judge took off his glasses. I'm inclined to agree. Mrs. Harris, did you have direct knowledge of improper information sharing? Patricia stood. I know that my nephew has been acting erratically and desperately. He's made false accusations against me and my son. This contract appeared very conveniently just as he was failing to meet performance requirements. The timing is suspicious. Suspicious isn't evidence, Judge Williams said. Injunction denied. The contract can proceed. Patricia's face went rigid. Her lawyer tried to argue, but the judge cut him off. We're done here. Next case. I walked out of that courthouse and immediately called Valley Transit. The injunction is denied. Can we move forward? I'll push the paperwork through today. First payment should process tomorrow. Tomorrow was the deadline. I spent the entire day waiting, checking my phone every 5 minutes. The payment had to clear before midnight or everything was over. 6 p.m., nothing. 8 p.m., nothing. 10 p.m., my phone buzzed. Bank notification, deposit received, $112,000. I pulled up my accounting software and ran the numbers. 90-day revenue target, $1.847 million. Actual revenue, $1.902 million. 103% of target. I'd done it. I called Marcus. It's over. We hit the target. Congratulations. I'll notify the estate attorney tomorrow. I sat in my apartment that night drinking a beer and staring at the wall. The business was mine. Fully and legally mine. Patricia's Westfield Holdings lost its buyout option. She was stuck with legal bills and no payout. But I couldn't celebrate yet. There was still the criminal case. The district attorney called 2 weeks later. We're moving forward with charges against Patricia Harris and Eric Harris. Embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy. Arraignment is next month. The day of the arraignment I didn't go. Didn't want to see them, but I got updates. Patricia pled not guilty. Eric pled not guilty. Both posted bail. Eric's mugshot ended up on the local news. The headline read, "Local business family embroiled in fraud scandal." His photo showed him in a rumpled shirt, looking exhausted. The story went semi-viral in local business communities. Everyone had an opinion. Patricia's financial situation collapsed. Her lawyer bills mounted. Westfield Holdings went bankrupt trying to cover legal costs. She lost her house to pay debts. Uncle Richard divorced her, filed papers 1 week after the arraignment. He called me to apologize. I didn't know, he said. I swear I had no idea what she was doing. I believe you. Eric's staying with me right now. He's a mess. He should be. He wants to talk to you, to apologize. I don't want to hear it. He says he has information about other things, family things he found in Patricia's files. That got my attention. What kind of things? He wouldn't tell me. Said he'd only talk to you. I thought about it for 3 days before I agreed to meet him. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. Eric looked terrible. He'd lost weight and his clothes hung loose. The confidence was gone. Thanks for coming, he said. I didn't say anything, just waited. I know you hate me. You should. I was an idiot. You were worse than an idiot. He nodded. I found something. In Mom's files. I think you need to see it. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were legal documents. A will. Grandpa's will, but not the one that had been read at the lawyer's office. This one was dated 3 months before he died. It was completely different. In this version, I inherited the business plus 4 additional properties. Commercial buildings Grandpa owned that I didn't even know existed. Together, they were worth close to $2 million. Where did you find this? Mom's safety deposit box. I had a key. Found it when I was looking for documents for my lawyer. Why are you showing me this? Eric was quiet for a long time. Because I also found something else. He pulled out his phone and opened a voice memo. Hit play. It was a recording of a phone conversation. Eric's voice and Grandpa's voice. Grandpa, I need my pills. Where are they? Eric, I don't see them. Grandpa, check the bathroom. The heart medication. Eric, I'm looking. They're not here. Grandpa's breathing got heavier on the recording. Eric, I need them now. I'm having chest pain. Eric, I'll find them. Just relax. Grandpa, call 911. Eric, in a minute. Let me find the pills first. The recording went on for another 3 minutes. Grandpa's voice getting weaker. Eric claiming to search but never calling for help. By the end, Grandpa had stopped talking. The recording ended. I stared at Eric. What did you do? I was there that day. Mom had told me to visit, to spend time with him. She said it would look good for the will. While I was there, he started having symptoms. I knew where his medication was. It was in the kitchen where it always was. But you didn't give it to him. I thought about what Mom said, about the inheritance, about how the business should have been ours, and I didn't move fast enough. You let him die. I didn't kill him. I just didn't save him. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. People in the coffee shop turned to look. Why are you telling me this? Because I can't live with it anymore. Because every time I close my eyes, I hear him asking for help, and because you deserve to know the truth. You're confessing to murder. Negligent homicide, maybe. I talked to my lawyer. If I come forward voluntarily and cooperate, I might get a reduced sentence. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. For all of it. I picked up the folder with the second will. I'm taking this to the estate attorney. I figured you would, and I'm calling the police. I know. I walked out, made it to my truck before I had to sit down. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't get the key in the ignition. Eric had let Grandpa die, had stood there and watched him suffer because he wanted money. I called the estate attorney first, explained about the second will. If it's properly executed and dated after the first one, it supersedes the previous version, she said. Bring it to my office. Then I called the police. They arrested Eric 3 days later, charged him with criminally negligent homicide. The recording was the evidence. His own voice admitting he deliberately delayed getting help. The trial happened fast. Eric took a plea deal, 18 months in prison plus restitution to the estate. At the sentencing hearing, he read a statement, apologized to the family, said he'd spend the rest of his life trying to make amends. I didn't attend, couldn't stomach it. The second will was validated. I inherited 4 commercial properties in addition to the business. Used the rental income to expand operations and hire back employees. Patricia's trial took longer. She fought every charge, but the evidence was overwhelming. She eventually took a plea deal too. 3 years in prison, restitution of the embezzled funds, permanent ban from serving as a corporate officer. The family members who'd sided with Eric during the dispute started reaching out, apologizing, asking if there were positions available at the company. I hired a few back, the ones who'd genuinely been misled, but the cousins who'd actively worked against me, who'd spread rumors and tried to turn clients away, they could find work elsewhere. The business stabilized, revenue grew. We expanded to a second location. Uncle Richard and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. He was devastated by everything that had happened. His wife in prison, his son convicted of negligent homicide. I don't know how I didn't see it, he said one day over lunch. All those years, she was good at hiding it. I should have known. Maybe. But she fooled a lot of people. 6 months after Eric's sentencing, I got a letter from him. Prison address on the return label. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. The letter was short. He wrote about the prison library, about therapy sessions, about learning to live with what he'd done. At the end, he wrote, "I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that Grandpa would be proud of what you've built." He chose right. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. A year later, the business hit $5 million in annual revenue. I hired 20 new employees, opened a third location, started a scholarship program for kids interested in automotive technology, named it the Marcus Harris Memorial Scholarship,